Today I've got to make some tough calls. We are at a point right now where we're producing too much lettuce. And there's also some other crops I'm going to show you that I need to make some tough calls on. Today's video is going to be about making tough calls and sort of the reality of that on a farm. Every farm is going to face this at some point during their season. And we're at a point right now where our production was doing really well, and then the warm weather came on, and now we're producing more of certain things than that we have sales for. And I'm at a place where I don't really want to go out and find new customers for that product, because I know in a month there's going to be that demand. So right now it's June 2nd, and going from our winter, early spring production, we need to have a lot of beds planted out to meet the demand, because it's cool and things are growing slower. So the regrowth of, say, our lettuce beds, for example, takes a while. Whereas now we're like 30 degrees Celsius during the day and things are growing fast. So beds regrow in about 10 days. And so now I'm producing more than I need, because I can actually get the same amount of production as I did 2 months ago on half the amount of beds. So, for example, in order for me to produce, let's just use an arbitrary number of 100 pounds of greens a week, I need to have, let's just say I'm getting 50 pounds per 50-foot bed, I would need to have about 8 of those beds in the field to have consistency, because they would be over 2 weeks. Well, actually, really, in the cooler season, about 3 weeks to regrow. But now they're about 10 days to regrow. So I'm less than half. So 3 weeks is 21 days. Now I'm at a 10-day recovery. Now I can actually have half the amount of beds to produce the same amount, because my regrowth happens in half the amount of time. I hope you follow me. So now I'm at a point where there's a bit of a pinch point. There's sort of a bottleneck. And I need to make a decision on what I want to get rid of, but I don't want to get rid of too much, because I know in July I'm going to have the demand. So as far as salad goes, salad production is, in my experience and the experience of many growers I know, really it fluctuates throughout the season. There's a lot of demand at the beginning of the season because there's not a lot of other product and people are really just happy to get any kind of fresh product. And then there becomes a little bit of a lull when other product becomes available. So other veggies start coming on, and demand for salad goes down. But as you get into summer and it's really hot and restaurants have all their terraces and patios open and people are having barbecues and they're making salads, then the demand goes back up. So it's kind of like it starts high, it has a little bit of a dip, and then it kind of shoots back up into July. So the challenge I'm faced with right now is I have to decide to compost some of these beds. And so right behind me here, we've got 4.5 beds of lettuce that's fully ready to harvest. And this isn't all of it, I've got more. And I'm only needing right now about 2 beds a week. And so right now I've got way more than I can use. I have to make sure that if I decide to pull some of these out and throw them in the compost, that I don't shoot myself in the foot, so that when it comes into July, which is in 4 weeks, I'm not short, because that would be an epic failure, and I've certainly made that failure in the past. So right now we're trying to make a decision on what we need to get rid of. And what it's looking like right now is we're going to harvest these 2 beds here, put them in the cooler, and then we're going to pull these out. So we're going to sit on the product for a few days, because you never know. There could be a demand for it. If not, it will be very likely that it'll just go right into the compost. And so even at that, it's not the end of the world. This is part of farming. There's always going to be some kind of spoilage. Fortunately, for a farm like ours that's just growing salad greens, we're just composting the first photosynthesis. So if you're a farm that's raising animals, and I've been on big farms where they're raising animals and they're throwing hundreds of pounds of meat or eggs or dairy away, and that sucks, because those products are a lot more expensive to produce. So we've already got at least one cut off these beds. They've already made their money, in the sense that when I look at the overall season, these beds will at very least produce $1,600 of revenue, because all of my beds, I call this high rotation planting, they're going to have 4 crops in them on average throughout the season. So right now it's lettuce, could very well go to radish, could go to carrots, then it could go to spinach. Any combination of that. When I'm rotating crops, I generally rotate family by plant family. I don't plant the same plant family in a row. So if I had arugula in this bed, I wouldn't plant mustard greens next. I'd try to plant something else, like maybe a spinach or maybe a carrot, something that's in a different family. I don't follow the exact certified organic crop rotation because I just don't have that many crops to grow, and it's hard to do on a small land base. So I don't use that, and I'm not certified organic, so I don't have to worry about it. But I'm generally following by plant family. So I'm practicing organic growing methods, just not certified organic growing methods. So I'm going to show you a couple other plots and kind of explain what's happening there as well. So these 2 beds that the guys are harvesting right now, they need to be harvested because they're so big, but these ones were planted later than the stuff we were just looking at. So these ones I don't want to pull because I want to get a second cut. And really the only reason we're harvesting these is to create a regrowth succession. If I were to just go and say I were to pull these out, then I might be shooting myself in the foot that I don't have a regrowth. So these will regrow in about 10 days, and that's what I want. I don't want to just pull them out and then not have anything that's going to regrow. So we'll go look at the other plot and I'll explain further. Currently this whole plot is lettuce, and it will go to another succession of a variety of different crops after these ones are out of the ground. So this is where we had our caterpillar tunnels. We had 2 caterpillar tunnels, these 4 beds, and then these 4 beds. Even here, you can see a succession amongst them in the way that they've been harvested. So these 4 here are almost ready to harvest. Like, those will be good to go by Monday for sure. And then these ones, which were harvested a week ago, they'll be good to harvest in less than, probably by the end of next week, near the end of next week, like Thursday. And then we've got a new crop coming along here. These 3. So these were planted about 2 weeks ago, and they've got at least another 2 weeks to go. These beds, we could essentially harvest near 4 of these per week. And so I'm basically trying to find a way to buy time till I get to July and make sure that I have a lot of greens then. So it means that for the next couple weeks, we might have more lettuce than we need, meaning that it goes to the compost, or we either take it to the Kelowna Gospel Mission or something like that, which we do sometimes. And you know, it's either a combination of that, but we're going to overproduce for a few weeks, knowing that in July our demand will double than what it is right now.
How's it over there?
It's good. We're producing a crazy amount of lettuce. So I'm back here at the home base, and I was just talking with the guys out front, kind of assessing what we're producing and what we want to have. So basically what's ideal for us at going into July, and even right now, is we want to be able to cut 4 beds of lettuce per week. So 4 50-foot beds of lettuce. So right now we're yielding about 80 pounds. On a full bed like this, we're getting 80 pounds. A bed like this one wasn't cut too long ago. I might only get half of that, 40 on this. But you give it another week and it gets that much thicker, we're getting 80 pounds. So if I have 4 beds available a week to cut, right now, that would mean that I have 320 pounds of lettuce per week, right? So 80 times 4, 320. So that's more than we need right now, but in July it isn't. So I want to make sure that I maintain that production. So that means if we have to put some lettuce in the compost pile, or we donate some to the food bank, then whatever. Then that's what we're going to do to maintain that until we hit July, when we've got that demand. So as it stands right now, when I was at the other plot, you saw that I essentially had 3 successions there. There's 11 beds there, so not quite. I'm one bed short of 3 successions. I had the 4 from the first caterpillar tunnel, 4 from the second, and then the 3 new ones. So that's almost what I need just there, but just to be safe, I'm not gonna destroy all these, which I could perhaps, but I'd be rolling the dice a bit in the sense that if there was some unforeseen demand changes, then I could shoot myself in the foot, because I don't need all these beds for planting. So I might as well just overproduce for a little bit while I can. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna harvest these 2 beds, and then we're gonna pull these out. So then back here, all we're gonna have is this one, and that smaller one, which were the later ones harvested. That one was planted later, but they were later harvested. So between these 3 or 2.5 that are gonna stay here, and then that 1.5 that's in the front yard, I essentially have a little over 3 full successions of groups of 4 of beds. So I'm confident that that's gonna be enough. So I wanna show you the other thing that's the other tough decision to make here. We've got these 2 beds of arugula here, this one and this one, and they've done very poorly. And arugula is one of these crops, I find in my experience, when it starts bad, it doesn't finish well. So it's kind of one of these things where you just cut your losses. So we're gonna turn these 2 beds under. The problem with these arugula, with these 2 beds of arugula, I think was 2 things, a combination of 2 things. One, it doesn't do that great on drip. However, I do hand water this from time to time, so I don't think that's so much the issue. The other issue is when the soil's too cold and the crop is starting, you don't have enough biology. The biology moves slower when the soil is colder, and it doesn't have the same access to nutrients as it does right now. So I might be able to technically replant this arugula and have a different success, though I'm not going to replant the same crop twice. I'll probably put carrots in here. But I'm going to call it a loss because there's yellowing on them, they're stressed, some of them are already going to seed, so it's one of those things where it's just, you just cut your losses and move on. So that's basically how that works in principle. Just to give you a brief rundown of what I'm trying to do going forward is I'm trying to set up a consistent production strategy where I'm harvesting the same amount of beds regardless of whether I can sell them or not. So going forward, we're going to be harvesting 200 bed feet of lettuce per week, whether we can sell it or not. And if that means we have to compost 50 pounds a week or donate 50 pounds a week, whatever, we're going to maintain that until July when that demand is going to come on. So that is our production strategy, and these are just some of the tough decisions you have to make. Yes, it sucks to pull product and not be sure you can sell it, but the alternative isn't any better, because the alternative is you just leave stuff in the ground until you can sell it, and then it bolts and it gets too big and it gets harder to clean up, and then at that point it's harder to move as well, because then the product is no longer that viable. So you're better off just looking at your beds and going, okay, how many do I want to plant and harvest a week, and then be consistent with that. And if that means there's a bit of spoilage here or there, that's better than being short when the demand comes on and just not having that product at all. So hope you guys have found that helpful. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll see you later.